And this morning, as we continue in our Loving on Purpose message series, I want to begin with a very powerful movie clip that will help us, as we continue to look at what the Bible has to say to us about intentionally choosing to love the people around us as we are commanded to as Christ followers. So as we're looking at what the Bible has to say to us about intentionally choosing to love the people around us, and especially when it's difficult to love the people around us. Let's roll the clip. Oops. Oops. All right, that wasn't supposed to happen. Wasn't that moving? You get it now, don't you? Okay, let's wrap up in prayer. Actually, that was supposed to happen, and we did that on purpose to make this following point. When a DVD player isn't rightly reading what's going on the inside, it does a pretty poor job of projecting to the outside, right? And so the movie clip didn't really have the impact that was intended, right? Well, the exact same thing is true in our efforts to love the people around us on purpose. If we ourselves aren't rightly reading what is playing on the DVD reader inside of us, so to speak, then the right message probably won't project to the outside, with the result that whatever impact we were meaning to have, whatever loving impact, is probably going to get jarbled and garbled and messed up. So let me put that a little bit differently. So if it is your intention to communicate love or to demonstrate respect or affirmation for somebody in your life, again, as we are intended to do so and commanded to do so by Christ, if you intend to love others on purpose, but your internal DVD player isn't rightly reading your own heart, then your message of love is probably going to come out like a bunch of static. And it's probably not going to have the impact that you intended that loving message to have. And so what we're going to see this morning then is that there's a connection between loving others on purpose and rightly reading our own hearts, rightly reading what's going on the inside of us. Now, let's unpack what is that connection between rightly reading our own hearts and loving other people on purpose. In my years of pastoral experience, I have come to broadly categorize people into two broad categories of internal DVD player readers, all right? So on the one hand, there are people who I call blank screeners. Blank screeners. When you ask a blank screener, hey, what's playing on the inside, you'll get a bunch of static, because when they're taking a look at the inside, they get right? Do you know any blank screeners? Right? Who are the blank screeners? Let's see. All right. Yeah, I'm a blank screener. When somebody asks me, hey, Kent, what are you feeling? In my mind, I actually see, when you're on your computer and you get that buffering wheel that's just spinning. For me, it's like, Kent, what are you feeling? Buffering. And about 2 days later, that wheel stops spinning and it'd be like, oh, I'm happy. I didn't know it, but now I do, because I had some time to think about it. All right, so blank screeners, listen to this. We're trying to make a connection between loving others on purpose and rightly reading what's going on in the inside. Blank screeners, if you aren't aware of, or if you don't understand what's going on within you, it's going to be hard for you to love others intentionally, especially when relationships are breaking down, because your external projection, your external effort, the strategies that you're choosing to relate to other people will often be driven by internal realities that you're not even aware of, right? There's something playing on the disc, but because all you're seeing is your external behaviors are being driven by things that you're not even aware of. So, for example, you could be, blank screeners, totally relating to somebody out of anger, or totally relating to somebody out of fear. That's what's really going on the inside. But you have no idea that you're doing that. You have no idea that you're angry. You have no idea that you're relating out of fear-driven, instinctive, self-protective reactions, because when you're trying to read what's going on inside, right, you're buffering, right? All right, so blank screeners, you know what I'm talking about. All right, the other broad category of people are the gatekeepers. Now, unlike the blank screeners, yeah, some of you know Gandalf personally. Unlike the blank screeners, gatekeepers have this crystal clear, high-def, sense-around picture. They know exactly what's going on the inside on their internal DVD player. But if you ask a gatekeeper, say, hey, what's playing on the inside, right? There's this little gatekeeper over their mouth, over their emotions, or over their actions. And that little gatekeeper is standing there saying, you shall not pass. That's the connection with Gandalf, right? You get it? You see what I did there? Yeah. The gatekeepers, you have a crystal clear idea of what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're saying, what the honest response is, but you are saying, the little gatekeeper is saying, there's no way I'm going to say that. There's no way I'm going to allow myself to feel that. There is no way I am going to do that. And that little gatekeeper completely shuts down open and honest disclosure. So anybody know any gatekeepers? Any gatekeepers out there? Let's see who our gatekeepers are. All right, 2 people. And there's more than that, but you know what the gatekeeper was saying? Don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. Do not raise your hand. That's the way gatekeepers work. So, all right, what's the connection between what's going on in the inside, gatekeepers, and loving people on the outside? Listen to this. If you can't be honest with what's really going on the inside, it's going to be difficult for you to intentionally love people, especially when relationships are breaking down, because your gatekeeper is functioning to protect you, not to love the other person. You can't do both at the same time, at least not very well. You can't be operating out of self-protection and other loving. Right? You know that? You should know that. Your gatekeeper is functioning to protect you rather than love others. Your gatekeeper is functioning to produce safe distance from the other person, not intimate connection with the other person. Your gatekeeper is functioning to hide your honest, naked self, not to invite somebody into, connection with your honest, naked self. All right? So gatekeeping and loving are contradictory to one another. So this is the point. Whether you're a gatekeeper or a blank screener, or you're some hybrid of both or a combination of both, I want you to see that there's this connection in between loving others and our ability to rightly read what's going on the inside of us. If you don't own what's going on the inside, or if you're unable, if you can't own what's going on within you personally, it's going to be difficult for you to garner your personal resources towards loving others. It's going to be, if you don't own or can't own what's going on the inside, it's going to be difficult for you to pull your thoughts and your words and your emotions and your actions and aim that towards loving another person. If you don't if you don't place any value on your own internal reality, it will be difficult for you to value another person's reality. Right? You cannot value, I turn the sentence around, you cannot value in another person what you do not value in yourself. Right? Now, that doesn't maybe for some of us sound quite right. Right, it kind of maybe doesn't sound biblical. It kind of sounds like pop psychology, right? It's kind of like we're saying, you can't love others if you don't love yourself. You have to love yourself. Doesn't that sound kind of wrong? Right. Well, it's actually biblical. In Mark 12, Jesus was asked the question, what is the most important priority in life? And Jesus' answer to that question we read here. Jesus said, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all of who you are. He says your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. All of you got, love the Lord with it. That's the most important priority. But in verse 31, and the second command is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than these. And so we see here that Jesus himself makes some sort of connection between our ability to love other people and loving ourselves. But that's still confusing. I think it's confusing. We're to love others as we love ourselves. I think it's confusing because as Christians, we have been taught, and rightly so, the importance of living selflessly. And so most of us believe, well, my tendency is that I love myself too much, right? Right, we love ourselves too much. And so this is a confusing standard. Love others as we love ourselves. If that's the way we're supposed to do it, but our problem is that we love ourselves too much, is Jesus saying here that I should love others less because I really need to love myself less? That kind of doesn't make sense, right? That's confusing. Or maybe Jesus is here capitulating to our selfish human nature, and he's saying, listen, you're all a bunch of selfish pigs. You love yourselves way too much, and rather than being so narcissistically self-absorbed, you should love others in that way. Is Jesus kind of capitulating to our selfishness here? All right, well, we could spend a whole entire morning unpacking what Jesus meant by loving ourselves, but we're going to pretend like we already preached that sermon. We're just going to jump straight to the conclusion, all right? And that conclusion of that sermon would sound something like this. Listen to this. So, to whatever degree that we don't own a godly love for ourselves, to whatever degree that we don't value in ourselves what God has said is valuable about us, then that vacuum of love within will become a vacuum of love without. A deficiency of knowing God's love for us will become a deficiency of godly love towards others. Does that make sense? Let me put those in simple words. We can't give away what we don't have. We can't give away what we don't have. And so if I believe on the inside, if this is what's playing on the DVD drive of my own heart, if I believe that Kent Butcher is a worthless person, I am going to move out towards others as if they are worthless people. All right? If I believe I'm disposable, I will treat you as if you're disposable. If I believe I am cheap, I will treat you as if you're cheap. If I believe I'm stupid, I'm going to move towards you as if you are stupid. If I am broken on the inside, I will break things on the outside. If I am hurting on the inside, I will move out with hurt on the outside. All right, we can't give away what we do have, but we do give away what we do have. And so if I'm broken and wounded and hurting on the inside, I'm going to break and hurt and wound on the outside. Hurt people, hurt people. If I don't value my own thoughts, then I will not do well at valuing your thoughts. If I don't know that my own feelings are valid and validated, then I will not validate, and place value on your feelings. If I do not know that I am loved, then I will not be able to produce in you the knowledge that you are loved. Because we cannot give away what we don't have. An internal deficiency of God's love for us will become an external deficiency of godly love for others. And so what I want to do in the rest of our time this morning is just kind of focus in on this connection, and let me reestablish, in order for us to love others on purpose, then, we need to have some sort of love for ourselves on the inside, because we can't give away what we don't have. And for us to experience in the love of God on the inside, we need to get true, we need to get real. That DVD player has to be rightly reading on the inside. And so that's kind of where we're going to go. The rest of our time this morning is going to be focusing in on the truth on the outside, and then over the next couple of weeks, we'll be seeing how then we move out towards others from a place of internal reality and truth and love. Does that make sense? So that's where we're going. So this is part one of, a 3-part series or something like that. All right, so how do we do that? How do we recalibrate the internal DVD reader so that I'm rightly reading what's going on here, so I can experience the love of God, so that I can love others. So I can project love towards others. All right, so this is the first step. We just need to get real with God. That's really the only point we're going to make this morning. We need to get real with God. The only way that our internal DVD players can read the truth about what's going on is if I have the truth on the inside, right? And so the first step then in getting real with God so that we can love others ultimately is we have to be in a love relationship with the Lord, all right? If loving other people flows out of being loved, as Jesus said it did, then you need to be in a loving relationship with the ultimate source of love. You need to know God, who has revealed himself as I am love. You need to know the God of love. And moreover, more than just having that as knowledge in your intellectual database, yes, God is love, I intellectually assent to that fact. You need to experience his love. Experience his love on the inside. There may be some of you this morning who have never, ever made that decision of entering into a love relationship with the Lord. There may be some of you here this morning who you're not even sure what that sounds like because God, in your mind and in your heart, is not a God of love. Right? Listen to this. Without entering into and experiencing him as a source of love, you will not be able to give away love because you cannot give away what you don't have. And God is love. All right, and so as a first application this morning, if you have never entered into a relationship with Lord and experienced him as Lord of love, make that call today. Make that call today. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. I mean, think of it this way. You know, let's say you wanted to spend the whole of your life just giving cash away to people. Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah. Well, what would you need to make that happen? Yeah, you would need cash first and lots of it and an unlimited source. All right? And, you know, I guess you couldn't spend your life giving away cash if you don't have an ultimate source of cash. Right? Well, it's the exact same way in our attempts to love other people. All right? If you don't have a source of unlimited and unconditional love coming into the pockets of your life, you can't give away what you don't have. Right? And the best that you will be able to do is to give to those around you just whatever loose change you find lying around. And God has communicated his love in the world in kind of loose change kinds of ways, right? You can pick that up without knowing him, but you don't have a whole lot in your pocket. Right? And that, truth be told, this experience of just exchanging loose change love between people is really the way it is in most relationships in this world. Everybody is looking to hit the love jackpot in another person, but most everybody you know is flat broke. Right? Because they aren't plugged into the ATM of love, so to speak. They haven't experienced God as their ultimate and unlimited source of unconditional love, with the result then in this attempt to hit the not the spiritual, but the love jackpot with other people. We just have a bunch of people with empty pockets trying to fill their empty love pockets with somebody else's empty love pockets, with the result that we just see a whole lot of relational bankruptcy, right? We see a whole lot of relational foreclosures, right? Because we're all trying to give away what we don't have. So in order to love others on purpose, we have to allow God to love us on purpose. Right? The ultimate real love of God, the unlimited, the unconditional love of God has to impact our real inner person so that we can really love other people with God's unconditional and unlimited love. All right, so that's kind of the first subpoint I'm making. But for many of us here listening right now, we are in relationships with the Lord, right? Relationship with the Lord. Right? We're Christians. We've called upon Jesus as our source of ultimate unconditional love. But for some reason, I think that many of us are still love poor. We're still love poor. We're still trying to give away something that we don't seem to have a whole lot of in our pockets. For some reason, we're plugged into the source of unconditional love, but we're still getting some sort of static-filled internal DVD reading on the inside, and that's translating into static-filled attempts to love others on the outside. Do you know what I'm talking about? For some reason, we're connected to the source, and it's not working for us. Why is that happening? I would like to suggest that for many of us, it's not happening because we really still haven't gotten real with God. With that DVD player. We haven't been honest with God, and for some of us, we haven't been honest with God because we haven't been honest with ourselves about what's really playing on the inside. We've called upon the Lord as our source of love, but we've never actually experienced, or we've rarely experienced, His love going on the inside of us because we've never really, truly invited God to truly, truly love and to love truthfully what's really going on the inside. Let me try to make that more clear and pull this all together. It's only when we know the love of God for our messed up, broken, wounded, sinful, imperfect selves that we can give away to other people love for their broken, messed up, wounded, imperfect, I can't remember what all words I said in there, but if we haven't experienced God's love for our mess, we can't give away love for others in their messes. Right? But the only way we can experience the unconditional, unlimited of God for our messes is to get real with Him about our messes. Right? And I think many of us live in denial about our own messes. Or for whatever, we've just never gotten real about God. And so we're still operating out of a love vacuum for our brokenness. And we still then extend a vacuum of love to other people in their brokenness. And so the only way that I can get real with God, about my broken mess, is then I got to get honest with myself about my broken messes. All right. Now, let's pause again to ask the question, is that Bible or is that just pop psychology again? Well, this is Bible. Psalm 51:6, the Bible tells us that God desires truth in the innermost being, and in the hidden part, the Lord will make me know wisdom. That's an old school way of saying He wants the DVD player to be reading rightly on the inside. He wants truth on the inner person. Right? God wants us to get real about what's going on the inside. And so if we need to get real with Him, we need to get real with ourselves. So the Bible also says it a little bit differently in Matthew 5:8. Jesus' own words here, you are blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and your heart put right. And then you can see God in the outside world. And so in Jesus' own words, we read that getting real with God about what's really going on in the internal world results in seeing God in the outside world. That getting real with God in our internal world results in God stuff happening out here. God stuff and God love happening in our relationships in the outside world when we invite God into truthful encounter with our inside world. And so this is the key point that I want you to walk away with today, is that to love on purpose then, in this way, to love on purpose, I must choose to get real. Today we're seeing get real with God. Over the next couple of weeks, what it looks like to get real with other people. But for today, the key point is to love on purpose, I must choose to get real. Let's read that together. To love on purpose, I must choose to get real because God desires truth in the innermost being. In order for me to truly love those around me and keep moving towards them in love in the way that we're commanded to as Christ followers, especially in those times when it's hard to love other people, especially in those times when they don't deserve to be loved. The only way I can do that is if I have a source of love that has moved towards me and I know that I am loved, and I don't deserve to be loved. Because we can only give away what we have. And if we don't have a sense that I am loved in my mess, I cannot love another person in their mess. But the only way I can know that I'm loved in my mess is if I get honest about my mess.